The utter destruction of Gaza, unfortunately and tragically, continues despite the so-called ceasefire that went into effect back in October of 2025. Now, a New York Times analysis is giving us new data on just how much demolition is taking place in the Gaza Strip. But before we get to that, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so New York Times has a great story about the facts on the ground here, which we're about to give you, so you can open your eyes as to what Israel's doing. But what's maddening is what they leave out, and that's what we're going to tell you on this show. So Anna, give them the facts.
So the New York Times relied on satellite imagery to do their analysis. I want to be clear in noting that Israel is still refusing access to international journalists so they can do reporting on the ground. And usually when that happens, it's because they've got something to hide. But according to the satellite imagery from Planet Labs, Israel has demolished more than 2,500 buildings in Gaza since the ceasefire began. So these demolitions continue. So let's take a quick look at this graphic, which will kind of help you visualize what's going on here. Now, many of the structures were likely already damaged by IDF bombardment. In fact, a UN assessment found that as of October, more than 80% of Gaza's structures, all buildings, were damaged or destroyed, but they've also been erasing entire blocks, as well as farmland and agricultural greenhouses. So most of the demolition is taking place in the half of the enclave that's now under Israeli control. And they've already made clear that they have absolutely no intention of leaving. And that's the yellow area in this graph. However, dozens of buildings have been destroyed beyond the yellow line in areas effectively under Hamas control, where the Israeli military had agreed to halt its operations. Now, let's take a look at another image. I'm going to give you even more evidence for what we're saying here. So in satellite images taken shortly after the so-called ceasefire went into effect, clusters of intact buildings can be seen in the Shajaya neighborhood of Gaza City. But images of the same area months later show that it's largely been reduced to rubble. So you see it right there. You can do the comparative analysis. And tons of buildings that were destroyed lay beyond the yellow line, in some cases as far as 900 feet past the yellow line. So what's Israel's excuse for doing this? Hamas, of course, right? So why are they doing all this destruction? They claim that it's part of their effort in demilitarizing Hamas and demolishing booby-trapped buildings while also allegedly destroying underground tunnels. They were in Gaza reigning terror for over 2 years, but they forgot to get to the tunnels. They're doing it now, allegedly. In reality, it's about clearing that land for the resettlement of Israelis. That's the reality. That's the truth. The New York Times didn't mention that, but if you listen to and read Israeli media, they tell the truth, and that's what this is really about. Palestinians say that the IDF is razing neighborhoods with absolutely no regard for the people who once lived there or the property they rightfully own. But why would anyone delude themselves into thinking that the Israelis give a damn about the Palestinians at all? They see them as worthy of nothing other than extermination. Mohammed Al-Alstal, a political analyst based in Gaza, says Israel is wiping entire areas off the map. The Israeli military is destroying everything in front of it: homes, schools, factories, and streets. There's no security justification for what it's doing. Plus, Israel's extensive demolition is not permitted. This is important. It is not permitted under Trump's so-called 20-point peace plan. So what does the plan actually say? All military, terror, and offensive infrastructure, including tunnels and weapons production facilities, will be destroyed. But Israel and Hamas also agreed to suspend all military operations, including aerial and artillery bombardment. Even Shaul Areli, who is a former Israeli military official who commanded forces in Gaza in the 90s, questioned the scope of this demolition that's being carried out by the IDF. He says that this is absolute destruction. It's not selective destruction, it's everything. So Israelis are also continuing to engage in the slaughter campaign, and I want to be clear about that. The death toll from the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip has now risen to, officially, although I think the numbers are very likely higher than this, 71,424. Close to 450 Palestinians have been killed in the Gaza Strip since the signing of the ceasefire. And some are, by the way, dying in the cold. They have no shelter. They're relying on tents, and those tents are not enough to keep people, including babies, warm. And so, strong winter winds collapsed walls of a building onto a flimsy tent for Palestinians who have been displaced as a result of the genocide. And that killed 4 people just recently. And then on top of that, a 1-year-old boy died of hypothermia overnight. So the devastation in Gaza continues at the hands of the Israelis.
Yeah, they're killing an average of 5 Palestinians a day. There is no ceasefire. I saw an 11-year-old whose head was all bloody and killed, lying dead on a gurney. Palestinian children still being mowed down. So now in this story, New York Times does a terrific job of outlining the scale of the destruction and the specifics of the destruction. Great, we want good journalism. We're happy to have it, and we celebrate it every time. Now, what's being left out? As Anna explained to you, there is one potential explanation the New York Times just couldn't find its way to finding. So there's 2 plausible reasons why they're doing this. Well, I think there's only one plausible reason, but I'll let you be the judge of that. The one was the one that the New York Times offered, which was the Israeli position. Oh, golly gee, we are so concerned about the tunnels underneath that we had to destroy every single building. Okay, sure. So now, I'm going to read you a hilarious excuse that was from an Israeli source that the New York Times bothered to print while not printing the obvious actual reason. 2026 just started, and like a lot of us, I've got some big personal goals. Here at TYT, we believe in changing the world for the better. But to do that, I'm going to need the right team of people to make it happen. Let's be real, sometimes it can be hard to find the right people who are that good at what they do. It's like if you're hiring for your business. How do you find the best people for all the different roles on your team? Well, it turns out it's actually kind of easy because of ZipRecruiter. And right now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/TYT. It's a great offer. Their matching technology works fast, so you find top talent without wasting any time. You can instantly see how many qualified candidates are in your area and reach them directly. That's why ZipRecruiter is the #1 rated hiring site. Let ZipRecruiter help you find the best people for all of your roles. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself, just go to this exclusive web address right now to try ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/TYT. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Anyway, so I'll quote it. They say an Israeli military official who spoke on the condition of anonymity under military rules said that Israel was not indiscriminately knocking down buildings. Oh, no, not indiscriminate. How did he explain it? He said they sometimes collapsed when Israeli soldiers detonated explosives in the tunnels beneath them. They're like, golly gee, we didn't mean to destroy every building. It's just that when we blew them up, they all blew up. Yeah, that's what happens when you detonate explosives inside the building, right? And besides which, he claims that they're doing it in the tunnels. No, you see it on video. The whole thing implodes just like a planned detonation, a planned implosion. And so they're doing it to all the buildings. And so the obvious actual reason is because they're never gonna leave Gaza. They've said it a billion times. They say it all over Israel. They're like, we're never gonna recognize Palestine. We're gonna take this part of Gaza and we'll probably take more of it for greater Israel. And they're gonna destroy all the buildings and turn around and go, well, I guess there's no buildings left, so there's nothing to come back to. So I guess there's nothing we can do. We gotta keep it for security and self-defense and because we're victims. And we just happened to ethnically cleanse all the Palestinians off the land, and then we destroyed every single piece of building that was on there, and then we started rebuilding Israeli buildings on top of it. But this was all for self-defense. And then, I don't blame Americans for believing it because what are they supposed to know? Our press lies to them 24/7, pretending that Israel is the victim in every scenario, pretending that Israel. So in this case, the New York Times, brilliant reporting, and then doesn't mention why they might be doing it. Other than the preposterous Israeli propaganda about how, oh, they're so concerned about the tunnels. Come on. And then they ruin the reporting, because if you ever suggest something that might blame Israel, oh no, anti-Semite, fire them. I'm so sick of it. And by the way, I'm sorry guys, but if you're in traditional media, you're a coward. You know what's happening in Israel. We all know what's happening, and you won't report the facts because you're afraid you're gonna get fired by some pro-Israel zealot inside your institution. And you all know it. Every single reporter in the country knows that, but they never share it with their readers. I get it, you got bills to pay, etc. But did you get in this for the journalism, or did you get in to be a marketing exec for Israel?
And remember, the Israelis are very concerned about the freedom and safety of the majority Muslim population in Iran.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Anna, one more thing. They said at the end, they have this one quote from a Palestinian, and the Palestinian says, but now remember, this is Hamas's fault. Oh,
right.
Come on, man. I know thousands of Palestinians, and a whole bunch of them don't like Hamas at all. But no one, not a single Palestinian I know out of thousands go, oh, we had it coming because of what Hamas did. No, Israel, it's not Israel's fault at all. No, Hamas made them do it. That's not a real person, brother. Come on, man. Jesus Christ, nothing but Israeli propaganda. Yeah, they're leveling the place because it is textbook ethnic cleansing. And they will build on top of it, and they will keep it, because this was always about land theft. It's right in front of your eyes. The only reason why some don't see it is because of the magic trick of traditional media. Oh yeah, they had got all the land. They attacked, they conquered, they killed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, then took their land. But remember, don't look there, look there. They're the victims. Israel's the victims. No, they're not. Israel's a very aggressive imperial empire in the middle of the Middle East that is causing nonstop wars, slaughtering people, destroying everything they own. And our press, like dogs, report that they're the victims. It's utter garbage. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.